Went to school at St. Kills, and then went to Keeler, Wisconsin for a couple of years, back to St. Kills. Well, I went to Wahlert for a short time, but that didn't work out so good. So I ended up my high school career in West Dubuque. My dad worked on the railroad, my mom worked at the packing house, and mother was a single parent in 1963 with 7 kids. Me and my brothers and my sister, my mother, were living down by the flex steel and pretty small facility, so it was time for the older ones to go on. My other brothers were, well, one was in the military and one was in school, so I joined early in April. You know, the 90-day, you could pick your MOS and other things, whatever all was in that little contractual agreement. And so when I got out of school June 8th, I was headed for Des Moines and then Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I finished AIT as an E2 down there, and went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia for my AIT, and Fort Lewis, Washington, on the way to Vietnam for our tactical training stuff. And then from there, flew into Benoit. Flew out of there on a helicopter to Lac Quay, and kind of between Lac Quay and Baylock, I spent a lot of time on the road there. And then we actually were construction workers, so that's what we did, is build the road, but I was a B company, the 554. We didn't do any big dam projects. We worked a lot of waterworks in conjunction with the road building and stuff like that. We worked with a lot of the units that were floating bridges, this kind of stuff, so we were riding along with everybody. We were in camp and out of camp. We spent a lot of time out on the road. We moved along the road like a little wagon train where there was a job to do. Our company would move along there and fix whatever was there, come back, turn around, go to another bridge, wherever we were. So when people ask me, we were in the Highway 1 area, but I can't tell you we were here, there. We never thought of it that way. We supplied most of our own security because, like I said, we were kind of like a wagon train. We'd just circle up out there in an open spot. Then we'd just work on the project. It was a lot of wasted time making sure that stuff wasn't booby-trapped and you know, not so much mined in the roads and stuff, but it all depends on the area, with high security, low security, you know. I wasn't in the north very much. We didn't go way up like Pleiku would be. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything about it. There was the earth movers. Actually, when we started out on the road, it would be blacktop, and then it would be dirt road, and then we'd be out where the 290 scrapers were building the road base, and then we'd go out where they were clearing the land clearing crawlers were out there. So we didn't know what part of the road we'd be on because the road would keep moving on. Then we'd just keep following it. You know, you can't operate a crawler with a 45 in your hand. I mean, you're going to be a crawler operator and rely on your security. Tiny was in the gun truck, and there was a couple other security posts around. And but they'd only have a small part of the road to be secure. You know, when you got out on the front part where the crawlers were clearing the land back away, that would be a little different. More of just a path. There wouldn't be too much there as far as a road. It would just be land clearing, basically what it was. And then as you further came back in, there'd be gravel pits and stuff set up to build a road base or whatever. Tiny was the commander of the gun truck. We actually built the gun truck out of a bridger hauler for hauling bridge equipment. We built it out of metal, snapped together metal, and then put blacktop in, about 6.5, 7 inches of black, or whatever it was. And then we had 260s, or 250s and then 260s mounted on it, every clear. So, because the Bridger truck is long, you know, so there's a lot of room on there. But it was the floor would be all ammo cans, so it really wasn't a safe place to be. At one time, we even took a minigun out of a helicopter that got shot down. That was Tiny's project, but he was older than us by, I think, 12, 14 years, and he was career soldier and all that. But he spent a lot of time while I was there trying to get his rank back. He was always losing rank. Yeah, yeah. But his dad was a colonel or something, so it, you know, it was a waste of time to take his rank away to give it back. But he was a guy that liked being there. If he heard automatic fire, he wanted to go there, you know. And I went on the road with him a few times on convoys. They'd be maintenance guys needed on the trips to Long Bend or Cameron Bay and stuff like that. And I was glad to get back to B Company. We actually could see a lot of things going on around us. We were a pretty small group as far as we weren't a big base camp, so sometimes we were protected because we were doing what they wanted. They wanted that road in. But at the same time, then you'd run into another patch where you'd just build a bridge and then they'd wreck it, you know. So it was hit and miss deal. Well, I would say a few times that we ran into issues where we were pulled back into a base camp or someplace like that, you know, and then you'd leave the equipment, and then you'd have to go through booby traps and all kinds of stuff before you could touch anything. In fact, we had one guy named Self that he wouldn't leave his scraper out there. He hid in the pan all night that night. I thought, you gotta be out of your mind, you know. This is it. I was running the contact truck. I told him, I'm going in. Are you gonna get in or not? You know, I'm not gonna sit out here and wait till it gets dark. So that's what we did. But he was there the next morning. Convoying was a beautiful thing. The only difference, you were vulnerable. There was a lot more hitting the convoys and stuff like that. There'll be mines and stuff that along the road, but we made it over and made it back. That's kind of how I ended up in trouble. Was we got hit on the road, and we never left anything behind, and so we were taking personal items and ration cards and all kinds of stuff, and I went into a PX over there and I had them ration cards in my pocket. Some young guy in polished fatigues is reading me my rights. I said, buddy, we got to get back to that convoy. We're pulling out. And he said, no, you're not going anywhere. So, but the warrant officer, Tetrahalt, come down and he said, I need that maintenance man on this convoy. He said, he ain't going nowhere, da-da-da. And it turned out that a W4 warrant officer had a lot more to say than, so that's kind of how it went. But I had a short stay at the Long Bend jail, not really admitted or anything like that, because Warnie was right there to take care of us. So
we've heard
no, we weren't like an infantry unit, yeah. You know. There was a lot of we had Captain Fennell. Well, Camp Fennell was named after Cap Fennell. He got killed one time during the year, the 11 months when I was there, and we named the camp after him. But he was a good company commander. Him and Tiny were, of course, were at each other all the time and whatever. But at the end of the day, company commander was company commander. There's no other way to put it. Tiny was a killer. There's no question about it. I mean, he was where everything happened. You know, he'd take off on the road for a month, 3 weeks. You never know. He'd be gone for 3 or 4 days, come back in. You know, it all depends what was happening. We were around a lot of the rubber plantations and stuff like that. So at times they'd be paying homage to the village leaders would be paying whoever. It was kind of a gangster little deal that they do, and we'd pull ambushes and stuff on the rubber plantations for the people coming in to get the payoffs and stuff like that there. But we never saw any of the money. We just heard about it. The different land formations, all of a sudden there's rubber plantations running forever, and they were big, no question about it. When things were changing over there in the 70s, if I could fly, I liked flying better than driving down the roads. You know, it was a different, there was changing in the whole war theater there about what was going on, what our, you know, we were thinking about getting out. Yeah. So right away then it gets to be a little sticky for, you know, security's not as good, less people, less communication. You'd think there'd be more, but it's confusing when you're shutting something down like that. And I'm certainly early in the 71 era when that happened, so between there and 75, I don't know what happened after that, you know, when I left. I was really isolated with our group. When we moved as a group. It isn't too often that we just struck out on our own, unless we were going to go to Cameron or like Benoit, them kind of places to pick up parts or something. You know, it'd be a long convoy. You'd go down there with empty vehicles. Anything, a bucket load or a flatbed open, it would be solid beer if you could find it. I mean, everywhere there'd just be everywhere. That's when you would have alcohol, or else Vietnamese beer or alcohol. And otherwise, you know, when you were on a convoy, it was kind of a big deal on the way back. You were dropping stuff off to people, and 80 cases to a pallet. Yeah, Hams and Mabel's Black Label and Slits, all the other brands. But I know you knew when things were down. It's kind of like marijuana. You're down to seeds and stems. And when you got down to Mabel's Black Label, you knew all the other beer had been drank. I mean, it's just kind of one of the way of us. It was kind of a crazy era. No homecoming, of course. And we almost got shanghaied we flew into Travis Air Force Base. And we went out to have breakfast. You know, everybody's home. You're in the country. You're safe. You're very vulnerable because at that time the military would give you all your money in cash when you muster out pay and everything. So we stopped and we were at the airport and they said, oh, we can't fly out till tomorrow. Let's go downtown, right? Well, we had been to the war and everybody had weapons available, so what are you worried about? All of a sudden we're in a different environment, you know, and nobody had any weapons, so we grabbed a cab and said, we want to go have breakfast. And, oh, I know just the place. So we did. And we were sitting there eating breakfast. And I thought it was so strange that the cabbie hung around, you know. So I told them guys, I said, well, I don't know. I'm a little uneasy about this. I was a little uneasy. And I said, I'll tell you, the cabbie just left. He's been here over a half hour. If you're a cabbie, you probably don't have that. And he left with an empty cab. Well, I was a little suspicious guy. Like I said, I lived in Graff, Iowa. Dubuque was the big city, and then I hit Des Moines and started going halfway around the world. So Travis Air Force was kind of a big deal. So anyways, I said, I'll tell you, if we call for a cab, because it took us 35 minutes to get here. If the same cabbie comes back, I said, I'm not getting in. I said, it just sounds like a setup deal to me, you know, So he did come back to get us. He said, somebody called a cab? I said, no, I didn't, you know. And all the other guys stayed there. The lady said, well, I'm sorry. I was pretty sure she was in on it. She said, well, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but you can't loiter here. I said, well, just give us we're all ordering another breakfast. So we did, and that's the way it went. Well, he hung around for a while, then he left. But I think they were all in on it. They wanted to take us, because we went through kind of like the warehouse district in Dubuque, you know. And I'm thinking, no, is this the only road to this place? Well, he didn't want us to feel, this is just my story, I wound this all up. But he wanted us to feel easy going back through that factory district, like this is the shortest way to go back, when really it was going to be a setup and we were going to get robbed down in there. I was sure we were. There was 6 of us. We all had our muster pay, I mean, you know, or everything. So, but anyways, we went back. We got a different taxi at daylight, and damn near missed our plane. You know, we were hurrying to get there, and we told the guy we got to get there right away. I said we got to, you know. Then we all just said our goodbyes. You know, we all flew home by ourselves, landed in Dubuque, and I didn't like it. It was a little crazy. I mean, you'd think it'd be happy to see a family. But I wasn't. They were concerned. Yeah, they were concerned, especially Mother. Yeah, funny thing, she burned a candle the whole time I was gone. And it went out one night. Yeah, I always thought I knew what that night was. But I was fortunate I got hired at Deere, and you could get on a 3rd shift job there, get away from everybody, and stuff was, you know, much easier then. Plus you found your guys, you know. I mean, it's not too hard to know a Vietnam veteran when you see one, at least not back then. Of course, it was crazy in the factories, you know, they were shooting them up and stuff like that. You know, people were getting angry, and thank God we didn't have any of that in Dubuque Works. But, you know, you read about it everywhere and heard about it everywhere, what was going on. And they had, the UAW had developed a national organization for veterans, the UAW vets, and it's alive and well today. The way the organization was set up, it was Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, and then it kind of grew. There was North and South Dakota and all kinds of, but our main group was in 4 states, and we would meet statewide, but actually the organization started in Ottawa with Vietnam veterans, and they were concerned about post-traumatic stress and stuff like that. And this was after quite a while. I know it wasn't in the 90s. I think it was 85, 88 in there. But anyway, they were very helpful because it gave you an opportunity to talk to other veterans about what they were going through. A lot of people that didn't get the help they needed because, first of all, when they got involved with VA, it was a mystery, and medication was very important. You know, take these, you'll be fine. Well, that worked well until you got home and took them, and then you ran out of pills, then you'd self-medicate in a bar somewhere, and right away you'd end up downtown. I mean, it's just, how did it happen? That's the story. And then some people would get on the medication, and those were things that Pat Flynn helped with a lot. You could feel confident talking to Pat about stuff, you know, that you felt uncomfortable about. But the problem that you had when you got into big veterans groups, there was a lot of drugs around, you know, and nobody, you know, people would be confident they knew what they had. I mean, we smoked a lot of grass in the war. I mean, there's no question about it. How could you do that? Why would you take away your only skill? I'll take that from veterans that were in World War II or Korea, but I won't take that from civilians. And so you just bring that habit home. I mean, while we were in Vietnam, they'd surround the base camp, and everybody had to take a pee test to see if you're on drugs and whatever. You get all the beer you wanted to drink, and until you give them a vial. So, but I mean, everybody was peeing in everybody else's vial. I mean, you ain't gonna let your buddy go down, right? Well, really, you were doing the wrong thing for him, but you didn't think that way then, because if you're in a place where life is cheap, so you don't tell me about I need to be careful of my body and take care of it, because I got a long life ahead of me. And then somebody dies, you know, somebody gets hit, the medics, you know, then all of a sudden you just got a different way of thinking about it, that particular concept of, and I suppose that's probably the reaction when you first meet your family. You think, holy shit, what do they see? So probably the biggest thing that I claim to do with veterans and military families to help veterans take the first step. Get them to the right person, get them to Plattfin, get them to somebody that you have talked to. I just talked to a veteran this week, and all this time, been right there next to me, you know. And yeah, he just said, man, I just want to talk to you. And I thought, boy, I've heard that before, you know. Over the years, all of us veterans have, between our brothers and sisters. Today, I'm glad they do. I'm very happy they recognize our veterans and that, you know, are coming home and so on and so forth. But they haven't did much better at solving the big problems, in my mind. They have a reunion at Kokomo, Indiana, 100 acres of veterans fenced in for the week, and they camp out together and drink together and just kind of kick back and talk about a million things. And I learned one of the most important things from a group of Middle East vets. We call them sand vets, respectfully. I always caution people that you need to ask them if they don't mind being called a sand vet, just to separate them from the Korean vets and the cold, you know, they separated Nam vets from Korean vets because of the temperature, you know, hot there, cold there, that kind of thing. But there was a group of them showed up at the motorhome, and they were pretty lost. And I always take plenty of food to share. And we were sitting there talking, and everybody else passed out. And just him and I were sitting there, and we're talking about stuff, you know, and I'm trying to learn from them and share with them. And he said something that struck me. He said, you know what you non-vets got to do is learn our lingo. And I never forgot that. I never forgot how important that was, to talk to them like Middle Eastern sand vets, not as Vietnam veterans. And it's really changed. I mean, with the UAW group, we got all kinds of sand vets in there, you know, but you gotta, you talk to them different, you know, and it makes a difference in the conversation, you know, age difference and so on and so forth. But most of my guys are at least 60. I'm one of the youngest vets I know of, and I'm going to be 69, so youngest Vietnam veteran, I should say.